Welcome everyone to a groundbreaking webinar series on inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility, presented by Gaining Vision 2020 in partnership with Connect for Life Charity. I'm Sean Pickard, and we are excited to bring you this transformative series of sessions that explore the interconnected themes of inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. Our mission is to create a platform that celebrates the uniqueness of individuals, promotes equitable practices, and ensures accessibility for all. Join us as we delve into thought-provoking conversations, exchange insights, and learn from experts in the field, all with the aim of fostering a more inclusive, diverse, and accessible society. Welcome to I.D.E.A. Do you know what this means? We like to start each session by acknowledging the land in which we call home. Gaining Vision 2020 acknowledges the lands which constitute the present-day City of Mississauga as being part of the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat and Wyandot Nations. Gaining Vision 2020 recognizes these people and their ancestors as people who inhabited the land since time immemorial. The City of Mississauga is home to many global Indigenous peoples. Gaining Vision 2020 is actively working towards reconciliation by confronting our past and our present, providing space for Indigenous peoples within their territory to recognize and uphold their treaty rights, and to support Indigenous peoples. Gaining Vision 2020 formally recognizes the Anishinaabe origins of our name and continue to make Mississauga a safe space for all Indigenous peoples. Arlene Samuel is a social service worker who utilizes her knowledge to empower community members to embrace their uniqueness, strengthen community bonds, and educate the public about systemic racism. Arlene volunteers her time at the Toronto Black Farmers Collective and is starting a new venture at York University, undertaking a master's degree in environmental studies. Her mandate is to incorporate environmental studies and social work strategies to combat environmental racism. Ladies and gentlemen, Arlene Samuels.
Thank you, Sean, and what a great introduction. Our topic today is going to be talking about intersectionality. And what does intersectionality mean, and how does it play a role in our lives? The intent of the session today is to understand and acknowledge how social constructs are interconnected to individuals and or groups live discriminative or oppressed experiences. The objectives: understand the meaning of intersectionality, provide participants examples of intersectionality, including individuals and the environmental, increase the understanding of the significance of intersectionality on marginalized populations, and lastly, create intersectionality awareness.
Now, before we go too far here, Arlene, I want to clarify a few things here. Now, in Objective 2 here, what we want to do, right? We are looking for examples of intersectionality, including individual and environmental. What does environmental mean?
Environmental would mean for intersectionality, how, for example, myself, I am a Black woman navigating this world. So in my environment, I have being a Black female, being a female, and of my age. All of these different aspects play a role in my environment and how I experience the world.
That can make you a very strong person, Arlene.
Well, I do push-ups every day.
Good to know.
You're welcome. Before we begin, I'd like to just emphasize some different terminology that will be talked about during this presentation, and mainly intersectionality. The term intersectionality, you need to recognize that individuals hold multiple social identities. For example, race, gender, sexual orientation, disability. They all intersect and interact with one another, and they lead to a uniqueness an individual experiences, and that can be shaped in forms of discrimination as well. Intersectionality is acknowledging that we all need to experience multiple power structures at the same time.
Multiple power structures?
Multiple power structures.
Well, let's break down what a power structure is before we get into multiples.
Well, power structure would be like, if you want an example, if you think about corporations, there's always different levels of power at a corporation. It doesn't have to be big or a small corporation. There's power structures at schools, power structures at the work in the workplace. There's power structures, just say in your own family dynamic. Power structures are everywhere that we look.
Thank you very much, Arlene. It's good to know that they're everywhere.
They're everywhere, Sean. You can't get rid of those.
No.
How did intersectionality become into existence? Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw is the individual who they say has coined the term intersectionality. She didn't start the term, but has popularized the term so people can understand what intersectionality means. For example, I am a woman. I am a black woman. I am younger than you, but I'm older than some other people. So I am also able-bodied. So those four characteristics have a different experience than somebody who's not able-bodied, who's not a woman, who might be older. So all of those play a role in how I perceive the world.
It's a very good point. We all have that different aspect. We all have our own walk, our own journey.
That's right. Why is intersectionality important to understand? Forms of oppression are not separated from other systems. The various systems are sustained and maintained by our other systems. By recognizing these types of systems, we're able to connect our intersectionality and take action in the form to discredit discrimination and end racism.
Very important things to do. And we do have a quote here from the University of British Columbia. Understanding intersectionality is essential to combating the interwoven prejudices people face in their daily lives. What does something like that mean to you, Arlene?
That is a great question, Sean. And how it's woven into our lives is, I think, from birth. You know, when you're young, people are like, oh, you're so young, you don't have the knowledge compared to, listen to your parents. And then you get older, preteens, adults. You always go through different stages, and you learn from your environment, the people that you're surrounded by. And then all of that plays into, just say, the workforce, into if you're an oppressed community, population. So everything interacts, and just recognizing that is very important, even if you're not from a marginalized community. How would you identify? It's a great activity. So if you place yourself in the middle, and then you have circles around yourself, what would you put in those circles? Would you put that you're a woman, a man, transgender, cisgender? Would you put your age? And then would that mean, do you face discrimination because maybe you're younger or even older? Are you a Canadian immigrant, or are you Canadian born? Do you come from Indigenous background? Everything can be within the circle, and that's how you identify who you are.
There's a lot of circles going on there, Arlene.
A lot of circles, Sean. That's why I didn't want to say all of them. There's too many to even talk about.
Oh, that's that big box of crayons, right?
See, I did the red, the purple, the green. If I did the black and the yellow, my goodness, I think it would have been here for ages.
That's an awful lot, yeah.
Yeah, good thing they don't do the crayon boxes anymore, right?
Very true.
The question is, why is intersectionality important? And I know we've touched upon it just a little bit, but if you're going to categorize it into 3 different areas, I want us to think about it in this manner. The building blocks of intersectionality encompass your social identities, systems of oppression, and how they interact. So again, examples, we have a race, gender, age, disability, sexual orientation. And one thing I didn't touch upon, your religion as well.
Religion's going to be a big one for a lot of people.
It is, and since Canada, as we know, is a multifaceted and multicultural country, religions are so vast. You can come from Brampton and you have probably over 10, 15 different religions in Brampton alone. So imagine Canada as a nationwide.
There's an awful lot of different people, an awful lot of religions in there.
And that's why intersectionality is very important to understand. And when I was talking about the 3 building blocks, we have our social identities. And social identities I say encompasses. So your social identity is one that is the aspect of your individual self, who you think you are. The other aspect is the environment that is around you and how that shapes your life and the different types of groups that you're involved with. And when we come to the middle, that is what your actual identity is. What do you think about that, Sean?
That's an awful lot of information to pull in from a lot of sources
It is.
to find out where you actually are.
Yes. Because I think my opinion on the subject is the fact that we live in, again, a multicultural society, and our perception of who we are is based on our friends, our family for sure, if they're just say immigrants from the Caribbean or Europe or South Asia, and then even in our schooling and our workplace, all of that plays a role in how we shape our world. And that's how our life is actually.
They do. All of those factors do actually play in. It's amazing how much that is.
It's, like I said, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And social identities, and again, why does it matter? It's important to us to understand how that power is distributed unequally. So if you're from a marginalized population, or just say even an immigrant that comes to Canada, understanding your role and understanding the individuals around you, they might think about you, which can lead to an unconscious bias. For example, if you're a Canadian-born citizen, you might get a job over somebody who's from South Asia or from, just say, the Philippines, even if you're qualified. It's just people at jobs, they prefer individuals that are Canadian-born, which is not right one bit. And that's where unconscious bias comes in.
It's unfortunate that it's there.
It is.
And being a guy that had to do some hiring at one point in time, I know my bias was towards the experience, not the person.
Yes, well, you need to have experience, of course, when you're doing a job. But, you know, not all individuals are like you, Sean, in them. Thank you.
Unfortunately.
Yes. Can we clone you, please?
I'd like to.
Oh, thank you,
I
please.
don't know if the world has enough for me. Though. It's,
Well, we'll just keep you in this nice GTA area.
Yeah.
I think so.
World domination, here we go.
Exactly. I like that. I like that. Now, what do you just say if you're looking at me or you're looking at Sean? Again, what do you see? As I mentioned, yes, I am a black female, but you might think, oh, maybe she's from the Caribbean. But I was like, I was born and raised here. Maybe she's heterosexual. Maybe she's not. Our mind likes to categorize individuals quickly to put them in groups for our brain to understand where that individual might belong to, so we'll know, okay, how can I address them? Or what do I think about them? Again, unconscious bias, which there will be a later session about, but it's just to understand how intersectioning plays a role.
It's there in everything.
It's in everything. It's in everything. Now, oppression. As I mentioned before, it was one of our terms. And I'd like to dive into oppression and for you to understand the different types of levels. Oppression's on a personal level. You can have oppression by, just say for example, you might see me in a wheelchair. You might think right off the bat, oh, well, she's disabled. But I could have just had a hip surgery and I just need to be in a wheelchair for a couple of weeks, right?
You could have slid into third base wrong and had an ankle injury too.
Well, if I played that game, yeah, but I prefer football, or AKA North America soccer, right? So it's one of those things. You never know what a person might be experiencing.
Exactly.
Yes. Or another, just a great example, if you see somebody walking with a cane, you might think, oh, they're elderly. They don't know anything. Their memory's gone. They're useless. But again, that could be all wrong. They could just be walking with a cane because maybe they're going to give the cane to somebody. We don't know. But our mind likes to play tricks.
Our mind likes to assume.
Actually, that's a better term. Yes, our mind likes to assume, Sean. And also with oppression, we have it on the surface level. It's an unconscious formation of individuals by the structures we live. For example, like cities, the education, or language. Example, again, living in Canada, and especially in the GTA area, you could tell by someone who's talking to you by their accent. You know, oh, they're not born here, so you might ask, where are you from? And they might reply, I was born in Scarborough. And then someone might say, no, but where are you from? You see, our mind likes to assume. Do you have any examples?
Well, I like your example about, where are you from when they hear that accent, but depending on what's going on at home, that could really influence that accent.
That's for sure. Because I know from my experience, my parents are from the Caribbean, and when I was younger, when they get upset at you, the Caribbean accent comes out, but when you're doing something good, the Canadian comes out. So I'm not going to let you know which one came out more, but I'm still here.
That's the important part.
That is the important part, Sean. Our next form of oppression is our structural or a systematic level. And we have all been taught or learned about historical events, just like, for example, slavery, of course, is a major one. You, of course, have the Holocaust. We just need to remember systemic oppression is still found today. We, of course, are doing much better than years ago, but it's still something we need to address and be aware of. So for examples of systemic levels, is the location of wealth. That could have been generational wealth. And I don't know if you've heard about in Nova Scotia, there is a town called Africaville.
I have not heard of Africaville, but I knew Nova Scotia had a large black population turn of the 20th century.
Well, that is actually what I'm talking about. So systemic and structural racism, that community was, again, just all individuals of black heritage. And the city of Halifax didn't approve of them to be there. So instead of working with the community, just like how they worked with the other community, the community didn't have any fresh water. It was just a place to not call home for everyone else, but to call home for the black community. The city of Halifax said, you know what? You can't live in here anymore. So they relocated them to say, okay, you're going to live in a better location. And then they took the land. So that is one form of structural oppression and systemic oppression. And of course, in Canada, there's much more.
Much, much more.
There's much more. And I know, Sean, we talked earlier about power structures, and I gave a brief description about it. But I just want to go into one area that talks about the individual, and the three other areas are talking about more of the group / the institutions and the state power. Okay?
The external factors.
Exactly. Thank you for that. So when we're talking about the power structures on an individual agency, that just means if I have a situation that I want to say no, that is my power to say that I can say no to. That's my individual agency. When we now discuss people power, that's when you see those protesters. You know, was it a couple years ago, of course, Black Lives Matters, and they're protesting in the streets. That is your people power. People coming together, male, female, kids, young, old, black, white, everybody, to make a change. Then we go to the state power. State power is your overall, like your cities, your government. How can you make a change in there? And that's, again, by the people, voicing their opinion to change what the state is. And that aligns with your institutional power. You have to understand, from an institutional aspect, what are their laws? What are their policies? And how does that affect marginalized people and communities? The wheel of privilege and power is a great tool to understand your intersectionality. And I'm just going to provide a quick example. If you're in the middle of the wheel and we go outward, let's start with, okay, think about it. Okay, are you poor? Yes or no? Are you in the middle class? Yes or no? And are you rich? Yes or no? If you're rich, that is closer to the center, then that would allow you to have more privilege and power. And again, if you go outwards, if the middle class, you have less privilege and power. And of course, if you're poor, you even have less. What do you think about that, Sean?
It's just amazing how that can go in order that way, but at the same point in time, if you flip that around so that you're a poor person, or you're, what would that be? That would be
Middle class?
a lower economic scale.
Yes, yes.
Then obviously it just goes backwards, goes the other way, but if you're middle class, you know, at what point in time are you moving away from poor and into rich, or moving away from rich into poor?
Yeah.
So how does that work out?
It's a, to my opinion, it's a sliding scale, because you could be rich one year, and then with the Canadian economy, you could be poor the next.
Well, with any economy, not just the Canadian economy.
True, true. So it doesn't necessarily say, of course, if I'm always middle class, I always have more privilege. It's allowing yourself just to be aware of that privilege and understand what type of power you get with that, that you receive with that type of privilege and power. And again, the wheel helps you know, it's just a guideline.
So it could help you essentially try and find more privilege then, if you're trying to change your status, where you are in life.
That is actually a good awareness. I did not think about that. But yes, you could use that as to understand where you are. You could use that to understand, okay, well, I'm aware of my power and privilege, and then how I can actually partner with different marginalized communities to use my power and privilege to assist them.
And move everything forward.
And move everything forward.
I like that one.
Oh, thank you. And with saying all of that about intersectionality, oppression, understanding power structures, you might be saying, Arlene, how can I help? What are some tips that you can provide me? Well, the first tip I would say, practice in your daily life. The best thing is to be aware of your power and privilege. Our second one, create safe spaces for others who are experience oppression and marginalization to their intersectionality to share their stories. Support local initiatives. If you're in your community, just say if they're doing something at the YMCA or maybe a local food bank, you know, give some time and understand what your community needs and how you can support them. Our fourth one is review organizational policies and practices to ensure different groups' needs are being met. And that's, of course, in your daily life, in your workplace. Support and assistance is very important when you're talking about intersectionality. And our last one, be aware of your social location and how that can enable you or inhibit you from discussing issues related to racism, sexism, and any other type of oppressive policies.
So if I'm getting this right, those 5 points, they all kind of point to look in yourself. What have you got that you can help someone else with?
Exactly. That was a good summary of those 5 points. Because again, I think we don't really necessarily think of ourselves as, you know, we might have power or privilege. But I know when I was in school before, and a perfect example is I am able-bodied. I can go to a grocery store, just go in, buy groceries and leave. I don't think about anything like that. But if someone who's not able-bodied, they might have a difficult time to go to the grocery store. They might have to have a vehicle to pick them up. They might have to just say, if the door is not automatic, Hopefully it is now, but back in the day it might have to be open the door. But what if they're not able to use their arms? So able body is a privilege, but if you're not aware of it, you just go into your daily life.
I think that goes on for a lot of people. They're not aware of what they can do. Nobody asks the question,
Exactly.
what can I do?
What can I do? That is a great question. Now, what can we do if we're talking about within the corporate setting? I have 3 tips. Observe different social identities within your organization. Your second, cultivate contact between individuals of different backgrounds and other social identities. And your third, implement strategies to elevate equity within your organization.
Implement strategies to elevate equity. That's a lot of big words, but what does it mean? What can we do?
Simple terms, when you're hiring, look for diversity. Of course, look for experience as well. Don't always think, I'm going to hire the same people who look like me. Diversity allows you to have different perspectives because those individuals have lived experiences. Look for, of course, women. Look for men. Look for individuals who are able-bodied. Look for anything that is different. And then within the equity part, allow, again, stories to be shared, opinions to be shared, and create a safe space.
So make sure people are heard.
Exactly.
Very good points.
Well, Sean, you brought them out of me. To summarize intersectionality, we talked about different terminology from power, privilege, discrimination, and oppression. We also talked about intersectionality and what it means. We talked about why is it important to understand. Then we dived into social identities and the 3 different types. So you have your social identities, your systems, and how they interact. We discussed where is oppression found, your personal life, on the surface, and your structural or your systematic power. You've talked about power and privilege, and then finally, what we can do.
We'd like to take the time to thank you right now for joining our webinar today and spending your time with us. If you're looking for further information about these topics, please reach out to Connect for Life at connectforlifecharity@gmail.com or reach out to Gaining Vision 2020 at gainingvision2020@gmail.com. Thank you very much for joining us today as we present to you from the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Arlene, thanks for coming out.
Oh, a pleasure, Sean. Thank you.